Hello, once again. I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. And back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we are reviewing The Reckoning from director Neil Marshall. Oh, yeah. All right. Joining me tonight is Dave Dreher, lead news writer at Gruesome Magazine. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like the Kool-Aid Man. I liked it. Pretty cool.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
What's up?
Don't get me started on that one either. Y'all are just baiting me. All right. Tonight we are going to be reviewing the film The Reckoning from Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall, of course, has directed quite a few horror films, many of which we like.
The Descent.
The Descent is probably
his most well known.
Yeah, Dog Soldiers, of course. But Descent is probably one of the most claustrophobic horror films I think I've ever watched. That really, got me. There's been a few that have aped it, but that one, wow.
Well, he also directed an episode of Hannibal.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the Red Dragon one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, let's dive into it. Let's find out what we're talking about. We're talking about The Reckoning. It's coming out on February 5th, 2021 from RLJE Films, also associated with Shudder. So look for it in Shudder later this year. Synopsis is, after losing her husband during the Great Plague, Grace is unjustly accused of being a witch and placed in the custody of England's most ruthless witch hunter, Judge Moorcroft. Forced to endure physical and emotional torture while steadfastly maintaining her innocence, Grace must face her own inner demons as the devil himself starts to work his way into her mind. Directed and written by Neil Marshall, along with Charlotte Kirk and Edward Evers Swindle. The cast includes Charlotte Kirk, Joe Anderson, Stephen Waddington, and Sean Pertwee. Yes, it's actually a very strong cast. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to give our first impressions, and then we're going to, those should be spoiler-free, and then we're going to get into a discussion. We're going to get into the spoilers during the discussion. We're going to yak about the film a bit, and then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Stick around for that. Oh, my. Dave Dreher, sir, we're going to start off with you.
I get to go first.
Dude, what was your first impression of The Reckoning?
The Reckoning. I find Neil Marshall to be a little bit of a kind of an uneven filmmaker. I can't speak technically. Chris, I'm sure you'll speak on that. I think technically he's probably spot on all the time. But when it comes to his stories, he's kind of all over the place. And this one kind of falls in that category. It kind of won. I think I even texted you, Doc, and told you it kind of won me over as I was kind of watching this. At first, I was like, but it kind of won me over in no small part because of and you took the thing down. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who plays like the Witchmaster General guy.
Yeah.
Man, he is
Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, really, really strong, man. Once he gets on the scene, I found him to be really, really strong. And our lead woman, kind of grows into the role a little bit. Some of her early acting, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's her who changes or if the character changes. I don't really know. It's either kind of so-so acting that she kind of finds her feet with the character and moves on and kind of grows into the character, or I don't know if it was written that way or if it's the actress who just kind of found her footing and got better as time went on. I don't know. But okay. I found myself liking the character much more and more, especially when we start getting into some of the like heavier torture kind of stuff. But yeah, my first impression is slow start. Glad I stuck with it because I ended up really enjoying it.
Absolutely, yeah. Sean Pertwee, for those who are wondering, probably recognize him from Gotham. Yes. Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of The Reckoning?
I love this film. I think it does get kind of slow. It's the start of it's kind of slow, but as it builds and it gets into the storyline, I think it's like it's not, it's a nice companion piece to The Witch a little bit.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, although you can actually understand what they're saying, as opposed to The Witch was just like you have to turn on subtitles and even then you don't understand what they're saying. But I think for me the strength of this is just the links that these people go to try to prove somebody's a witch, that anybody who doesn't like pain is probably going to admit to being a witch if they have to go through all these horrible things. And I think for me, it just got really interesting where you have this woman who's battling everything. And I mean, you can sort of understand how just going through that kind of process is going to drive you nuts to where you're probably going to believe in the devil. You're probably going to think you're a witch by the end of it, because they do torturous things to this lady. But her strength, and I think, you know, I think the way the last third of it plays out is I loved it, because I love it when you can have sort of like a really strong female character that no matter what they do to her, she's gonna hold her ground. And so yeah, I mean, there are scenes that are very rough to watch, but you know, also you have some really great villains. Like you mentioned, I think was Moorcroft, was that the guy's name, that the bad guy?
Yes.
And then his little female Freddy Krueger sidekick, the burnt lady. I mean, it's like, and then all these like torturous instruments and stuff. There's a scene that it's a nice companion piece to a film called Serpent in the Rainbow, where it's going to make you scream in pain if you're female, but even if you're not a female, it made me like cross my legs. So, but yeah, I think Charlotte Kirk, and this is one of those films that kind of got mired in a sex scandal that actually involved the actress in this. She was involved in a lot of big studio bigwigs, like a whole sex scandal. And even the director got involved with it because he's was having a relationship with her. So yeah, but I think, you know, I think she does a good job, and I think especially she really shines when it gets into the point of her having to sort of fight the mental demons and whatever possible real demons that are happening. And then when you get this sort of like the kick-ass parts that you know feel right up there with like Sigourney Weaver and that kind of stuff, and you know, when that kicks into gear, you're like, yeah. So it has that kind of like Revenge, like the movie Revenge. It has that kind of stuff where you want to see her be able to seek revenge on these people that for some reason they think they're doing good, but they're more evil than the things that they're trying to go against. So yeah, I think it's an interesting period piece that you don't really see too many times. And I really wish they had the ability to do that, but a lot of times it's very cost prohibitive for people to do these type of things. But I think it's a side of the sort of like the witch type things, like you have things like the Salem witch trials and stuff that you don't really get to see what kind of torture methods they did against these people just to basically drive them insane to where they're probably going to agree to being a witch. So yeah, I really love this film. I think just because of the main female character and the villains in it who you love to hate.
Yes, you love to hate the villains. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was incredibly engrossing. You wanted to follow this character. You wanted to root for her. It's incredibly well shot. I think, yeah, I think Pertwee stands out, right? As Sean Pertwee as Moorcroft, once he gets in there, I agree with Dave. That's when it really kicks into gear, because their confrontation is much different than the confrontation we've had up until then. Because the confrontation before that is with the the pastor or whatever. It's not a pastor, maybe it's a reverend. Not really sure what the guy was, but he basically owned the property she was on, and
yeah, like a landlord, yeah.
Yeah, but he was a dick. And he's he's the one responsible for her being accused of being a witch. Small spoilers, but not really. But anyway, so that was, and I think that's Dave. I think that's what you were responding to, because that was much different film than when she's really confronting the evil that she's meant to be confronting. And there's a history there as well, which I thought worked out really well for the movie. And what you admire is this woman's strength and her conviction. And what I liked about it is that characters in the movie also admired that strength and conviction across the board, right? There are all types of characters, even Moorcroft to a certain degree. So there, and of course it's a mother fighting to save her child as well at the same time. So it's pushing all the right buttons. And buried in all this is these horrific torture devices that are frightening in and of themselves. And then these scenes that play out like nightmares, but maybe they're hallucinations, but maybe there's something else. And those are really well done and frightening as well. Very chilling movie at times. I really dug this as well. We'll just dive into our hey, that's not the one I wanted to do. We'll dive into our full discussion on this. So it sounds like we're all kind of in favor of this film. But Dave, I want to start with you because when you text me, like you said, you also said that this may not be his strongest film. Was that you who said that?
Well, and again, but I'm saying that as a horror fan, not as with any technical background, because I'm not speaking to the quality of the filmmaking done. I think it's a very well put together movie, but Neil Marshall has the ability to scare the living shit out of you when he wants to. I mean, The Descent was one of the scariest movies. When did The Descent come out? When was that? In the early 2000s?
Descent, it came out 2005. Holy cow.
But I mean, that whole movie was a slow burn up until when they show us the cave dweller things, and then it just becomes this amazing creature feature. And I loved it. And it's kind of the same with Dog Soldiers. I mean, those are probably my two favorite films of his. I remember the disappointment when Doomsday came out because it was like the follow up to. And it just stunk. I don't know. That was like his Mad Max wannabe movie or something. But anyway, and that's why I say it's kind of a little uneven. He's played around with Games of Thrones and Westworld, and he's dabbled in all these different things. This just, I wanted more of a horror movie. This was more of a period piece with horrific moments.
Very psychological as well.
Yeah. But again, it wasn't bad. By no means was it bad. But I wanted more. I wanted a Neil Marshall horror film.
And you wanted more of the devil?
Well, not even just so much the devil. I could really the devil makeup. If you looked at it closely, it kind of looked like the cave dwellers with horns.
No, that's hilarious.
It's kind of like he's like, hey, you know what? I still got this cave dweller mask. Let's just stick some horns on that bad boy. So and we don't get a lot of that. I mean, I really think the best effect in the movie, and I don't know, are we? I mean,
we're in spoilers.
We won't go super spoilery, but there's a head squash that looked really, really good. That was more along the lines of kind of what I was hoping to see, and that was really good. So, but definitely, because I think he wrote this too, correct?
He along with two other writers, yes.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's strong. Our lead lady's journey is a good one, and it's worth watching. And you can even kind of draw some parallels a little bit to like today's political climate with this. You got these whack-nut people who just make these outrageous claims, and people are just guilty because so and so says they're guilty. That landlord guy says, well, the husband was such a good, faithful man. She's got to be a witch for him to hang himself like that. He has to be. She has to be. And they just believe her, and they bring in the guy with the funky hat, and all hell breaks loose.
Yep. He just finds anything he can to.
Yeah. He just, she's got a mole on her neck there. Oh, there it is. It's the mark of the beast. She's a witch. And so, I draw a parallel between that and that crazy woman down in Georgia now who's, saying all these outrageous things. And
no.
Follow along with it,
You and your politics.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, a parallel can be drawn there. People will believe anything if you scare them enough or make them paranoid enough. Even the most outrageous thing will seem true. So, and I like that. I kind of liked I liked all that. So for me, the only slow part was kind of that little beginning 20 minutes or so, and then once the husband becomes ill, it really ramps up quick.
Yes. Yeah, I think that scene really shows the strength of the character when she has to deal with his decision, which kind of hard to argue with the decision, given what
given what we know that does.
Yeah. But I thought that started building the strength to the character, and then of course once the vicar shows up and tries to take back the property, she's on her own. She can't really, and I like that character development. So you said you liked Descent and Dog Soldiers. Did like those as well. I liked all his TV work, which also includes Lost in Space, Christopher. Westworld, Constantine. We mentioned Game of Thrones, Hannibal.
He's kind of all over the place, isn't he?
He is. But I didn't dislike, but I wasn't a huge fan of Hellboy. You got to remember he did Hellboy.
Yeah, that was the David Harbour Hellboy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that happened. Christopher G. Moore.
Uneven, like I said, very uneven.
So Dave,
actually one of his better films.
So Dave, would you have preferred it if it was called the Rec-QAnon?
And they could have had that QAnon shaman guy could have been the devil instead of the. See, we can tie this all together. Oh my God, we've got it. Oh my God, Neil Marshall was the cause of the insurrection. Oh my God, we figured it all out.
Oh man. Now, Chris, you got to see this as part of one of the film festivals your short was in. Is that right?
Yeah, I got to see it. Part of which one did I see? I've seen so many virtual film festivals.
I remember it's back in December. So.
I think it was Spooky Movie International Film Festival. I think they had it on that. I think it was initially supposed to be part of Nightmares, but they had to back out. But then they, I guess because of COVID and all the distribution problems, they ended up allowing it to be in Spooky Movie. But yeah, I got to see it early. And it really, really stuck with me. I mean, there's still images of that still burned to my brain for good or bad.
So where do you think that one torture device, and we all know which one I'm talking about.
Yes.
Where did it go?
Oh, come on.
Where it went.
There's two places.
I think there's only one place.
Each one equally as nasty. So
it was made for a woman. So it wasn't made for a man or a woman. It was made for a woman. So it's only going to go in one specific place.
Okay. All right.
Oh, you guys are terrible.
It's hard. I mean,
no, seriously, all kidding aside, that is absolutely horrific. It's horrific.
It's very, that whole scene is just like hard. It's hard to watch, but it's like, man, it just shows you how strong of a person she is. She's going to put up with that kind of pain and suffering just to refuse to, because she's already had to see her mom go through something like that. And then you see like the double edge of the coin with the Moorcroft sidekick, the woman who got like burned at the stake and then somehow survived it, and so she's turned into this sort of like bad version of that, who's really no better than anybody else. But yeah, it's I mean, I will say this is not a traditional horror film per se, other than the horrors of torture, and then maybe the images. Although I thought some of the devilish images were kind of creepy.
Just out of the puddle? Come on, they're very creepy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very creepy because it's like she's trying to fight it, and you're not really sure if she's just having, because she's not really being fed or being able to sleep, if she's just saying things, or if it's actually the devil, like, hey, I found just your most vulnerable point. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like in some ways, not only is she sort of fighting against these people who are calling her something that she's not, but that she's also dealing with these sort of the temptations of evil in general. And she's like, screw that, I'm not giving into that either. So I found it to be really interesting. And I think that's when her acting sort of kicks into gear, when it gets to that point, especially when the last third of it, where she's got her sort of goes into full like revenge mode. and it turns more into a sort of more of a like an action film. But yeah, it does feel like more of a almost like a fantasy adventure, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. It kind of had a little bit of a Tarantino twist at the end there too. I got it. You know what I mean? As far as the
Oh yeah, I could tell. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I see that.
So, and I also like and again, we were kind of flirting with spoilers here, but we finally get the one neighbor or friend who kind of stands up
Yes.
for her again with her husband. So and I kind of like that too, that we had that character that finally went, enough's enough. We know this is bullshit, and was willing to take the licks that she had to take for having that opinion.
Yeah, I like that it had a good sprinkling of those who, just were full on with the witch hunting, and then others who were like, what the hell? What is this going on?
There's crazy shit going on.
So it wasn't fully one-sided. There was, some interesting character insanity. Yeah, it was just kind of thrown in there. I also liked that her husband Joseph kept appearing to her. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure the extent of that. I always felt like there was a small hint of something supernatural going on, maybe. But Joe Anderson plays in that role now. Christopher Joe Anderson also was in Hannibal. Do you remember?
What did he play in Hannibal?
He played. Oh my gosh, what was the pig guy? He replaced the first one.
Oh, he played
Mason Verger.
He played the new version of Verger.
Yeah, he played the second new version of Verger.
The version Verger.
Well, remember because he got replaced on the third season.
Well, he had all that makeup on, so I had no idea what actor was underneath that. So I mean, that's good to know. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I do love there's a nice sort of visual transition at the very beginning when it deals with the death of her man and stuff. I think is really well done. I think there's some nice visual flourishes throughout the film, but I will say I think the movie builds, because when I was first watching, I was like, oh my gosh, this pace or something about this is gonna I hope the whole movie's not like this. But then when it kicks into gear, and then we start meeting all the villains and stuff, and then the revenge stuff comes in, that's when you're like, yeah, go for it. But yeah, it's really well done, but it definitely doesn't go shy away from some of the torturous aspects of it, where you're like, oh, I'm not sure any normal human being would be able to deal with that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I can't see how she did. But there's also a lot of very haunting imagery. You've got the rope, especially when the rope kind of goes out the door and she follows it to the grave site.
Oh yeah.
You've got the plague doctors used throughout this, so very scary. Of course, lots of rats and dungeony kind of stuff. Not to mention everything that happens with Moorcroft. And then you get the finale in the dining hall, which I really liked how that played out. That was pretty well done. That was exciting. Let's just say it went straight balls out action with a straight up fight, and yeah, that was good. Nice ending to it.
The reckoning occurred.
It sure did. It sure did.
Yeah, they went full Ripley at the very end.
They kind of did. But it was fun. And then it kept going, and it kept getting better. It was really cool. All right, so let's wrap things up. Let's give our final thought, our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still hanging with us and enjoying this, first, we want to thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're enjoying our reviews. If you hit the subscribe button or share, that's the best way for helping us out and get others involved. You can hit the like button if you like, smash that bell if you want to get notified. We'd love to hear comments. When you see the film, and we know you will, let us know what you think of it down below. Also, we want to take a quick moment to thank our patrons over at Patreon. And without their help, we wouldn't be able to do the Gruesome Magazine, H&R, which you're watching now, Decades of Horror, Heroes and Droids, a number of podcasts. We have some really cool announcements coming in the coming months. We are content partners with horrornews.net starting in February, so look for our content to start popping up there. There's an app, Dave, that we're going to be involved in. There's an app.
What, the newfangled thing?
There is. There is an app. Do you know what the app is, sir?
I think I do know what the app is.
Is it French fries?
It goes by the name of Slasher.
Thank you for drawing that nice little seg out as long as we could. So our content will be found on Slasher hopefully in the coming months. So that's going to be cool too. So look for us everywhere, and then of course look for us on Apple Podcasts and here on YouTube. So without anything else, let's go ahead and dive into this and give our final thoughts, our score, and our favorite scene. And Dave, you sir are up first.
Well, again, in talking about it with you guys, I actually think I like it a little bit more now.
Yeah. That usually happens to me.
That happens sometimes. We get into the discussion, like I said, it wasn't the movie I was expecting to see, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Strong acting, as we covered so thoroughly. A little bit of gore, a little bit of nightmare stuff, a lot of torture. Again, I'm kind of treading cautiously because I don't want to give too much away. There's a couple twists along the way that I also enjoyed. So I originally was going to give this a 3.5, but I'm going to tick it up a little and go 3.75.
Oh wow, nice!
And my favorite scene, I got to go with the one of the only real gore scenes. I got to go with the head squash.
The head squash.
Got to do the head squash.
Oh my, that was a good scene.
It was a good squash.
It was. Christopher G. Moore, sir, you are up next. What is your final thoughts? What is your score? And what is your favorite scene?
The head squash sounds like my new favorite dance. I really like this film. I think it's I love a good period piece if they tell a good story, and I think this is also an element of you don't see too many films that are about the witch trials and that kind of stuff. Or there used to be films, I guess, back in the 70s. What was it like? Was it Witchfinder General or something like that?
Yeah, the Vincent Price movie. Yeah.
They don't really do those type of things, and there's a lot of torture stuff that went on there they don't really talk about. We always sort of think about like, oh, they're just dipping people into water, will she float? And we don't, but they did a whole lot more invasive surgical procedures that you definitely don't want to know about, but you realize the levels that these people went to sort of either cause people because at some point to admit like if you're innocent, are you really going to be able to deal with this level of torture? I think everybody's pretty much a witch if they had to deal with this kind of element of torture. And I love that you have this really strong female character who's throughout her whole life, she's had to deal with her mom being taken from her because of the same type of situation. And then these horrible men that are other than her loving husband, these horrible men in her life that are just, treating women like secondary things and people not believing people, and you see the paranoia that we still have to deal with today in our own society, where all it takes is a few people to spread lies and everybody believes it, even though it's outlandish and stupid. And if you have any common sense, you realize that there's nothing to it. So, but yeah, I think Charlotte Kirk, once she sort of gets into full dealing with these type of situations, her part gets a whole lot more stronger. And I think having villains to play against really helps as well, especially when you get the Moorcroft guy coming into play, who's definitely this villain chewing up the scenery, who's definitely not Batman's butler anymore. And I think he chews the scenery and plays a really great bad guy that you really want to get some comeuppance to by the end. And so, I think the only thing is, I think by the end of it, I kind of want to see the further adventures of her character, whether it's Reckoning to Wreck Harder or Wreck Boogaloo or whatever you want to call it.
Electric Reckoning.
Oh, it'd be more like Steampunk Boogaloo. I kind of want to see it because I love her badass character. I just want her to go around with a sword and fighting for justice for women. And and killing these sort of like witch finder people.
Hmm.
So rating wise, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's a well crafted film. It's got some nice visual flourishes. I think my biggest complaint is it is a little bit slow in the very beginning, and it takes a little bit of time for it to sort of like to kick into gear and for it to be firing on all cylinders. And so when it does that, that's when you're truly invested, even if you're horrified at certain parts of it. As for favorite scene, I won't call it a favorite scene. I think it'd be the scene that really sort of stands out to me because it's definitely not a. I will have to say it's the thingamajig up the whatamajig. There's a horrible torture scene which I feel does the same to me that the scene in Serpent in the Rainbow, where he's like, I want to hear you scream. That scene is, and it's not one of those things where it's a quick thing. It's slow, it's methodical, and it's horrific, and it's hard. And I meant to look it up to see if that's an actual device, because I can only imagine that probably is a device that some guy would come up with to horribly torture somebody, a female person. So I don't know. But I'll say that scene, that whole scene just gives me the chills every time I think about it, because it's so horrible that somebody would do that to another human being. And so I'll say that scene is the big.
We'll call it a standout scene.
Standout scene. I don't want to say it's favorite because I did not revel in that. I didn't like, yay, she's getting tortured. It horrified me.
Whatever, you sick bastard.
Yeah, there's a soundbite. There's a soundbite.
That's a t-shirt. So anyway, that's my standout scene.
There you go. I enjoyed this part. I think it's a very solid and it is entertaining. I mean, it's hard to, when you talk about a film that has this much of torture in it, that it's entertaining. But there's a lot going on here. It's a lot more going on here than that. And those scenes serve a purpose. They give our character a reason, well, she could have broke, right? Anybody else, you would have think a person would have broke in that scene, and she still had the strength to keep going on. So there's an importance to it, and that is a great scene. I mean, will I remember this in the end of the year or even next year? That's the hard part, because it didn't quite. It didn't quite get that bang that we've already been getting out of a couple films this year, and we're only in we're just started February, and we're already talking like this, but it could creep into the top 10. Depends on what the next 11 months have, but at the same time, it's a solid film, and I would recommend anybody interested in this, witch trials or this type of film, or the director or the actors involved, definitely want to watch it. There's a lot going on here, and a very strong film. My score, I'll go 3.75 as well, and I did bump mine up too, Dave.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that. And
the
my
conversation helps.
It does. You get all excited about it. I wonder if I'll have 3.75 tomorrow when I wake up. My favorite scene, I'm going to go with the dinner scene between her and Moorcroft, and everything that transpires there. And here, take this. Maybe you can find a way to escape. And click.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh well. There's like a big long cycle. I don't know. There was a lot going on there with her being as manipulative as they are, but in a totally different way, right? It's really fascinating, really well written, really, really well acted, and you just, you're chewing on what's happening there. You're just like, get up, are you gonna do it? You're gonna do it, and boom. Yeah. All right, look for this film.
That's it.
Starting February 5th. Check it out and let us know what you think. That is our review of The Reckoning from director Neil Marshall, making up for Hellboy.
Wow.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
I never saw it, but that's mainly because I only want Del Toro to make a Hellboy movie.
Yeah, there is that. There's a book worth of discussion about that. Guys, you know what? Thank you so much for joining me, Dave, Christopher, for this discussion. I was very eager to watch this film, especially after you saw it and shared your enthusiasm for it, Christopher. So I'm glad we finally got to do it, and I hope everyone enjoyed us bantering about it. So let's go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.